Get started. It's a beautiful, beautiful Gemara today. It literally takes us all over Shas. I understand now why it's called Shas Cotton. It really, really is. Okay, so yesterday, what we learned was why is it? We learned the second reason, a second sakana reason why they would have to make the wedding on Monday, and that was because if the chassan lost his father or the kala lost her mother, and they would push off the chasna, they wouldn't have anybody to help them prepare. So we learned the halacha that they would first be boiled mitzvah pirish, and then they would have 7 days of sheva brachas, and then they would have 7 days of avelus. And we learned that even though someone's allowed to be miyached with his wife who's a nida, one may not be miyached with his wife under these circumstances. And the Gemara asked, I don't understand why. After the Bia Rishona, why should him being miyached with his wife be any different than any one of us who are miyached with our wives when they're a nida? So the Gemara answered, since in this particular case, we're displaying a great kula in the Avelos, because we're allowing to have sheva brachos during the week of Avelos, that might lead the chas and kala to think that they can also be together. Therefore, we force them to hu yoshin ben ha'anoshim, hi yishein ben hanoshim, and even though they already had bio, we still separate them because they're not going to take the Avelos seriously since we're being makel in the Avelos, which took us down to the bottom of the Avdalid Amud Beis. Omar Mar, Benkach ubenkach lo yiva. One should not make the Bia Rishona loy be'erev Shabbos, v'loy b'motzoi Shabbos. Now, I said one should not make the Bia Rishona. That might not necessarily be accurate, but the reason why it's lo yiva be'erev Shabbos is because it's a chabura, and you're not allowed to make a chabura on Shabbos. It's causing bleeding. V'loy b'motzoi Shabbos, and not on motzoi Shabbos as well. B'shlom of Erev Shabbos. I understand why on Erev Shabbos, meaning Friday night, not allowed to do the Bia Rishona. Then B'shum Chabura, it'll make a Chabura, which is also to do on Shabbos. B'motzoi Shabbos, and my Lord, what's the problem with the Bia Rishona being on Motzoi Shabbos? On my B'zeira, the concern is B'shum Cheshbonos. They would always They would always make the Suda then. So Rashi Shem Yichnois L'Motzoi Shabbos, if the Bia Rishona would be Motzoi Shabbos, then Yasa Suda Balayla. That's when they would make the Suda. Now, if someone is making a big Malava Malka, what are they thinking of? A whole Shabbos? Oh, did I buy enough of this? Oh, did I buy enough of that? Am I going to run out of cups? Am I going to run out of this? The Yachshiv B'Shabbos, Ma'u Tzorach Loitzi. All Shabbos is going to think about what he has to buy or do or prepare for the Malava Malka. One of the things that we're not allowed to do on Shabbos is discuss Inyanim Shachor. This isn't just a mundane cheshbon. This is a cheshbon of a mitzvah. It's for a Sudas mitzvah. But Rav Chisda said that cheshbon shal mitzvah muter l'chash from a Shabbos. You're allowed to make calculations for a mitzvah on Shabbos. And the Gemara goes now into a list of different cheshbonos that are allowed to be done on Shabbos. You're allowed to set up how much money to give to Aniyim on Shabbos, which is a whole sugya farzich, because you're not allowed to be makdish something on Shabbos. So the Achronim struggle to find what this means versus being makdish something on Shabbos. So some Rishonim say, if you're being makdish a specific item on Shabbos, that's not allowed. It's transferring from your rishus to hektish rishus. But if you're just discussing an amount, it's going to be allowed. And that's why we could sell aliyahs on Shabbos, because we're not actually giving something to the Bismedish. We're saying that we're going to give something to the Bismedish. And there's a miyut, such chiach who doesn't give, but that was one of them. But that's why there's some people who just say matana. But there's another story is that you're not buying an object, you're buying a schus. So therefore, it's going to be allowed. You're allowed to have a meeting in the basic Knesset, the Bismesh, to discuss in Yonam Shorabim. I'm not sure if that means you're allowed to have a board meeting on Shabbos, but Pashas you are allowed anyway because we're not doing anything. V'Amar Rabbi Yaakov Ha'idi, Amar Rabbi Yochanan, Mefakin pikuach nefesh b'Shabbos. You're allowed to publicize public dangers. Now, of course, most Rishonim say this doesn't literally mean pikuach nefesh because that's Pashas. You can do anything on Shabbos. It means even things that are of an importance for public safety, even though it's not mamish pikuach nefesh. So Hatzal is allowed to talk about on Shabbos how you have to be careful. There's a ganeb over here. It's dangerous. Don't walk here. Don't walk there. There are article titles that's theaters and circuses. So I understand if it's a board meeting, it's like a circus. But you're allowed to go to these places. These were public places where people would encounter public ministers. So if they had to, if they needed to influence them with something, with once again to accomplish some type of askonas, that's also allowed to be done. You're allowed to be meshadach. And the sefer, which is the next thing. You're allowed to make up with a rebbe that you're gonna teach him Torah.
What would be, what's the Gemara's Havamina? Why it should be us? Are you going to put a calculator?
That's the Gemara's Kash over here. The Gemara's Kash is it's a cheshbon shel mitzvah. What should be the problem? That's exactly what the Gemara is asking. Ulalam de umnis, and you're allowed to teach someone an umnis. I think that's. Can you imagine it's a mitzvah to teach your son an umnis? Wow, what a concept! What a concept. Let's see Rashi. Rashi says Rashi has a whole stick over here. Ulam de umnis mitzvahu. Could you imagine it's a mitzvah? Tichsiv re'echaim em isha asher hafta. Lamoid imnus shetichya himenu imatayr Barmina the kedushin sha'aviv chayiv l'lam the umnus. Yeah. You don't actually teach them how to. You don't take them under a sink and teach them how to fix a sink on Shabbos. You arrange it. That's right.
You teach him how to be a kale guy on Shabbos.
So it's interesting because the Gemara says about somebody, I think it's in the Kedushin, that the best umnus, I'm only going to teach my hand the best umnus, which is Torah. So if Moshe explains, that means at the age where he only needs to learn Torah, yeah, that's the right thing. But there comes an age where you have to teach him a parnasa, and when that happens, that's what you have to teach him. So Rav Moshe actually says, "Shad him back more. Don't think I'm teaching my son the umnus. I'm teaching him how to be a kohen man. That's the right thing at the right time. But when the time comes that somebody has to learn umnus to make parnasa, avada, that's the mitzvah to make parnasa." And that's why Rav Moshe also, in 1964, Rav Moshe was asked if one is allowed to buy life insurance. And he said, not only is one allowed to buy life insurance, it's a mitzvah to buy life insurance. That's part of Ishtadlus. Just like learning a umnus is part of Ishtadlus Taparnosa, you can't say, oh, Hashem's just going to give me a lottery. It doesn't work that way. You have to make the normal Ishtadlus, you have to learn the umnus, you have to buy insurance. And Rav Moshe speaks specifically, I don't know if there's any brokers in here, but Rav Moshe speaks specifically, you should buy life insurance and health insurance and fire insurance and theft insurance. All type of insurances are things that someone should buy because that's what the Rebbeinu Shalom put into the world for us to take advantage of. It's not only is it not a chasarn in the Munah, it is a Munah because the Rebbeinu Shalom set these things up in the world to protect us from such things. Hello. It's not a joke in itself. I have a friend in the United States, and today, 2022, who quit his job about 6 months ago. He's my age. He's single. So he figured, I'm going to buy health insurance. I didn't buy health insurance for it. And he busted up his ankle. He twisted his ankle, and he needed a $25,000 surgery, and he didn't have insurance. He got insurance, but we'll talk about that a different time. But thanks to Obama, he was taken care of. But at the end of the day, that Rav Moshe said you have to have insurance. You're right. We can't say that there's a problem with the beit cheshbonis. In fact, if you're thinking over Shabbos about if you have enough chicken for the simcha matzah Shabbos, that wouldn't be a problem at all. That's called cheshbonis that are allowed. The problem is you might actually shech a benoif. What's up? A benoif. So Tosfos says yesh garshin boy oif, not a benoif. Aval gav the Shabbos losh makevi. Instead of it doesn't say ba, it says boy. Tichsiv mechalem hashumas hakanam me'aveloshin zocher because it says kol oisa boy malacha. So instead of having the long endinun, the benoif, it's boy oif because what's up is a benoif. Sorry. That's what Tosfos says. Indeed, that's right. Shabbos is lashon zocher and lashon hakev. Shabbos is binary. That's right. Oh, that's right. That's right. That's why we say at night we say ba, by day we say boy, and by mincha we say ba. That's right. The Shabbat is in nami benoif, but the word benoif makes sense also. If it's a young one, why not a regular oif? I guess that's softer meat. That's what people like to shech to the chsiv shnei b'nei yoyim. Okay, so that's why Chama Yishchet benoif. And Vosabas Yishchet benoif. Why not shech the behema? Why not cooking a knife? There's many malachas that someone would be tempted to do to prepare for the Sudam of the Shabbos. The Rishonim tell us that the ben knife you can cook, you can shech in a half a second. If you ever saw a shechita, it takes a half a second, a flash, to shech the knife. Someone in the heat of the moment might do that. Bishul or shechita of behema, which is much more involved, that's not the chash. The chash is something that is done very quickly. A person will do it, and then by the time he chaps what's going on, he would have done the aver. Amalei Abaye, Elamayata. Now that you're telling me that you push off mitzvahs because it might lead to Chilul Shabbos while you're preparing for the mitzvah, well then Elamayata Yom Kippurim Shechol Yosh B'Sheni B'Shabbos. If Yom Kippur falls out on Monday, which means now on Sunday there's a special mitzvah to eat. Yitcha, are you suggesting we should push Yom Kippur off a day so that Erev Yom Kippur shouldn't be on a Sunday because Gzeir Hashem Yishchay Ben Oif? Is that what you're going to say? Look, Rashi Yitcha Lo Shlishi B'Shabbos Shema Yishchay Ben Oif L'Tzorach Sudas Macher. So Gemara, no, that's not a problem. Hasam on the Erev Yom Kippur, who are you cooking for? You're cooking for yourself. L'Nafshei. Therefore, like Torah, you're not going to panic that you're not going to have enough food. But here we're talking about making the Suda for the public. Torah, that's something that's going to panic somebody that could cause them to cut, to shech an animal on Shabbat. Inami, or there's another difference. Hasam is Rafka. There's plenty of time. Zokt Rashi, because Lishchot Belaylo, Shasuda Inad L'mocha. The Suda of Erev Yom Kippur is during the day, not at night. So he's not panicked right away from Motzei Shabbos. But Hacha here, when you're making the Chasanet, Motzei Shabbos, less Le Rafka. Which Rashi says, Shasuda Belaylo, Acher Shabbos, Mishachashei Chamiyad. So he's totally panicked. Maybe I need some more chicken, and he's going to shech the bird. Zok the Gemara. Hashta, the Asas Lachi. Now that you reach this point where there's an issue of we're worried that someone's going to shech. Zok the Gemara, Erev Shabbos Nami. Now we know why. People shouldn't get married on a Friday because we learned earlier people shouldn't get married on a Friday. Again, we don't fear stuff like that nowadays, but there's a svara why someone shouldn't get married on a Friday. If the Suda, which will be Friday night, if he's running low on food, he might also panic and shech the bird. So therefore, that's also another reason why you shouldn't make chasnas Friday night.
And that also is preempted by cheshbonos because there seems to be a formula here. First you panic, then you worry, then your wife tells you there's not enough, and then you go chef. But if the meal's Friday night, when is that time to make that cheshbon? The cheshbon is done in advance from one of Shah, or the cheshbon is done in advance, or it's done the day of. There seems to be
it happens while you're plating.
So one thing, so that's both.
Yeah,
so
I was once by a shaver bros here in the Smedrish, and while we were plating the food, we realized we were only about 15% too short. So the question is, the last 10 people, what were they going to get served? So you should have seen the creative things that were going on in the kitchen. Much were you there? So there was some very creative. And then when we brought the plates out, there were some really weird looks at what was on their plate. But at least there was something on the plate. They have no idea how much effort was involved in just finding something to put on the plate. So what's the difference if under the rice there's squished paper? On the top, it looks very good. It's supposed to. You're going to eat it? So you're not, that's the part you're not supposed to eat anyway. In other words, the chasna is on Wednesday, but it is to be on Wednesday before nightfall, on Wednesday. And we're not concerned that from Wednesday till tomorrow, till Thursday, the chasam will calm down if he didn't find the sulam, and he will still run to Bezdin. And Rashi says, just because there was a full evening in between. But the bia is Wednesday night, which is really Thursday. Like Rashi says, if the bia is going to be Wednesday afternoon, then by the time Thursday morning comes, even if he didn't find the sulam, he might not run to bed. Tashma, the Tani Bakapar, the sulam this is b'revi v'nevelas b'chamishi. So it's very, very clear. Why? Hoyel v'nemra boy bracha la'adam. So here's the caveat. The reason why the Brisa says the bia is b'chamishi is not because we're worried l'kriya daita. It's because Hoyel v'nemra boy bracha la'dogim. Rashi says, it says Pru Urvu Umilu Esamayim. Almanin is Bachamishi, Benevelas Beshishi, her bee is going to be at night. Again, Hoyel v'nemer by Rachala Ada. And Rashi says, it says Pru Urvu Umilu Esaretz. So the Gemara idea, time on Mishum Bracha. The reason why we say the bia should be Wednesday night, Thursday, that's because of the Bracha. Avo Mishum Akriya Daita. But the Svar of Kriya Daita wasn't the reason that the Tana used to tell us that the bia should be Wednesday night. So So you have a raya from here that we're not choshesh for Kriya Daita. And Tosha tells us, yes, Mishum Bracha, the bia should be Wednesday night, Thursday. However, if someone is willing to forgo the bracha, then he could even make the bia on Wednesday, and you're not choshesh of a Kriya Daita. Because a Kriya Daita would say that you can't, even if you want to. Make it, if you want to make it earlier, you wouldn't be allowed to if there's a chash of Kriya Daita. But if it's only because of the bracha, then the person would have the right to forgo the bracha. Like Rashi says, time mishum bracha. Avamant like kapara bracha, mishum Kriya Daita, like chayshinon, mishum high porta, just because there's a little of an evening in between. But there could be machshich the room, right? Zoktam ihachi almana nami tiboel. Oibazoi and almana should also do bia b'chamishi hoyel v'nemer boy bracha l'dodim. Zok Gemara bracha the adam adifalei. It's better for them to do the bia on the day where there's a bracha to the adam approval. Zok Rashi, why bracha the adifalei? Well, it's obvious because it's adam. It's made for them. When we b'shishi loiti nasei b'sula, even though bracha the adam is adifalei, so why did you say to b'sula also should get married on Friday because there's a bracha l'adam? So Rashi the bisman orach atsheni b'Shabbos, but because there'll be a long time of a lapse of a gap between the bia and the next time Bezdin is sitting, the Asher Dayane, which is when Bezdin will sit next on Monday, chashina l'krei of a merviat chamishi loy chashina. It's also brought down that there's a maila of the bracha that was given l'dogim is because dogim don't have ayin hara. Ayin hara is not shown on them. So there's a special inyan of bracha l'dogim. So we shouldn't right. So we should not have to suffer from ayin hara. I'm sorry. There's not anyway. No one's jealous of that. I have a friend who wants to have twins. Yosy will want to have twins. Yosy will tell me it's gewaltig to have twins. You're so happy. Baruch Hashem, you have 2 healthy children. Nobody's jealous of you. Nobody's jealous of you. Gewaltig. Sagt mal weiter. But it wouldn't help it the week of Shever Bracha, she's not cooking. Sagt the Gemara, the inami mishum shaktu. Or not only is there a shaktu not only are we concerned about having a nice chasana for a besula, and that's why we push off the wedding to Wednesday, so there should be time to prepare. There's actually an inyan of shagdu by the almana as well. We wanted to have a nice marriage experience. The Tanya we looked in a brisa. If Nema Amr Almana Mrs. Bechamishi, Venevelis Beshishi, why do we say that Almana is Mrs. Bechamishi? And the Bia happens on Friday. Shemata Aimer Tiboyal Bechamishi. If the Bia would be Bechamishi, then Friday has no significance related to the Simcha. Because Sai, the wedding didn't happen that day, and Sai, the Bia didn't happen that day. So what's going to happen at 6 o'clock the next morning? Sorry, ma'am, I gotta go. I got a job. He's gonna marry this woman, and first thing in the morning, the next day, he's gonna be off to his job. So Rashi, there's only one day, which was Thursday. So Friday is not a Yom Tov at all to him. So he's gonna get up and go to work. So therefore, so she should at least have 3 days with her new husband. Chamishi b'Shabbos, because that was the day of the Chuppah, Rashi says. V'Shishi b'Shabbos, v'Erev Shabbos, Rashi says, because of the Chibas Bia, and Shabbos anyway he doesn't work. Ma'ika ben bracha l'Shabbos.
Shabbos is Thursday night was the wedding?
We'll never. It's afternoon. Thursday night is Friday.
It's Thursday night is Friday,
Right.
so assuming it's Thursday
So
afternoon.
it's a Thursday afternoon wedding. So Thursday he doesn't work. I mean, he doesn't work. Maybe he can work till noon.
Oh, that's Thursday night. Not Thursday night.
So Zak Tamar, what's the difference? What's the difference if the almana gets married on Thursday because of Shaktu, or if she gets married on what difference if the bee is on Friday because of Shaktu, or if the bee is on Friday because that's the day that there was a bracha pura Adam? The difference is as follows: Adam bottle. What if it's a guy who's unemployed? If it's a guy who's unemployed, then you don't need Shaktu. Then any day of the week he can get married because he's not going to work the next day. She's begging him to go to work. He's not going to work. So the only reason why he would get married on Friday is he would get married on Thursday and do the be on Friday is because of the bracha pura. If the wedding was on Thursday and it turned out that Friday was Yom Tov, so he can't work anyway. So al Shaktu you wouldn't need to, but al bracha you would still need to. Inami Yom Tov shechal yoyis be'erev Shabbos. Zok Rashi, Adam bottle l'mandam or bracha do Adam adifa afzuti boel b'shishi, because we want the bracha. Madam mishum shaktu nevelas b'chamishi lo yashkim l'mnasa. He's not going to go to work the next day anyway. Now there is an isim halacha. There's actually an isim halacha for a chassan and kala during the week of Sheva Brachos. There's a shayla that has the din of chalamoid. And if a chassan is allowed to do work, if it's a davar of it, those poskim hold that if it's a davar of it, and the kala is maskim, then he's allowed to work during the week of Sheva Brachos. But there are those who hold that the ism halacha isn't like the ism halacha chalamoid, and even if it's a davar of it, he wouldn't be allowed to go to work. So there's such. I mean, it hasn't happened yet that I'm aware of that the chassan wanted to go to work. The question usually is he doesn't want to go to work 5 years later. But that he wants to go to work the day after Chasna, I'm not sure. When that shaila was brought to Rav Moshe, but maybe it was. Okay, Zok the Gemara weiter. Zok the Gemara weiter. Dorish Bakapara. Dorish Bakapara. Gedolim Ma'aser Tzadikim Yosy Ma'aser Shemayim. The Ma'aser Tzadikim are bigger, are stronger than the Ma'aser Shemayim. The Ma'aser Shemayim words, and the Rebbeinu Shalom creating Rashi's Ma'aser Yitziras Shemayim words. Zok Gemara, and Rashi tells us why are we bringing in Bar Kapara? Mishum Bar Kapara, Nokat Lo Da'ir La'il Ba'Goda. Did we have from Bar Kapara earlier here? Yes, we have Bar Kapara. So this is Bervi. So now we're quoting more from Bar Kapara. Zok Bar Kapara. G'day Ma'aser Tzadikim Yosy Ma'aser Shemayim V'Oretz. Deal the Ma'aser Shemayim V'Oretz. Af Yodi Yosta Oretz. The hand Lashon Yochid of the Rebbeinu Shalom made the foundation of the world. Imini Tavcha Shemayim. So you see, only one hand is used when the Rebbeinu Shalom is dealing with creating the Shemayim V'Oretz. And when we're talking about the Binyan Beis Hamikdash, which was built by man, by tzaddikim, siv machen l'shivtecha, va'alta Hashem mikdash Hashem, koininu yadecha. It takes both of the Rebbeinu Shalom hands to hold the Ma'aseh Yadayim of the tzaddikim. Heishiv Babel Yechad. So Babeli answered Reb Chia Shemoy, and he asked. It says v'yabeshes yadav yatzaru. So v'yabeshes is something that Rebbeinu Shalom created, and it has a lashon of yadav, also two hands. So how could you tell me that Ma'aseh Shemayim Varet only took one hand at Rebbeinu Shalom? You see yadav yatzaru. Zok Gemara yadav ksiv. It might be pronounced yadav, but the ksiv it doesn't have a yud there. So it says yadai, so you see it's not a full two hands. They form, meaning the two hands form. So if you see two hands being used for the Maisa or at least, Amar Nachman Yitzchak, Yatzaru is not referring to his two hands, it's referring to the 5 fingers on the one hand. Yatzaru etzboisa. Like it says in the Pasuk, Ki era shemecha Maisa etzboisecha, the Shemayim made by your fingers, it says as Shemayim misaprim kavoid kale, umaisa yadov magid harakia. So once again, you see two hands are being used, even in reference to Shemayim. It's the K'mar Hachikamar, Maisa yadeim shal tzadikim, mi magid. So Maisa yadav magid harakia is not referring to the Maisa yadayim of the Rebbeinu Shalom. It's the Maisa yadayim shal tzadikim, mi magid. What's the testimony to the Maisa yadayim of the tzaddikim? So to Gemara, harakia. The rakia testifies to the Maisa and Taivim of tzaddikim. How? Umayni umotar, because when the world gets rain, because the tzaddikim daven for rain, that's a testimony to the Maisa tzidkis of the tzaddikim. Rashi says, Hachi Gamar, Hayu Maisa Yodev, the Maisa tzaddikim tzid. It's not referring to the Maisa yadayim of the Rebbeinu Shalom. It's the Maisa of the tzaddikim, shekruyin Maisa shalahem, Maisa Yodev shalakadosh baruch. Their Maisas, they're doing the Maisa yadayim of the Kadosh Baruch Hu Wachkamer, Maisa Yodev. What does the Maisa yadayim of Hashem do? Maisa tzaddikim, Magid Rakia. The Rakia tells us about it. So Rakia made aleim lebriyos shem tzaddikim. How does the Rakia show and is made that these people are tzaddikim? Shemispalin ala geshamim umater yored. Because when they daven, we get rain. Dorish barkapor. My dichsiv v'yoseh tilachal azinach. And this is referring to when you're camping, you should have a shovel so that you could dig a hole when you have to relieve yourself, so that you relieve yourself in the hole and then it gets covered up, so that you don't leave a mess. It's called a scoop. It's called, what it's called? There's a word for it. Poop and scoop. Yeah. So I'll take it as a necha, ella al oiz necha. What does that mean? You should have a yeset. If someone hears something that's inappropriate, such as lashon hara, what should he do? He should take a yosei, his finger, which is like a yosei, and he should put it as a necha to his ear. The oznov, he should put it in his ear to block his ear. And Rashi says, why the finger? It's tapered just like a peg, and it'll plug his hole just to plug his ear just perfectly. Why is the finger of a person similar to a peg, meaning it's tapered at the top? Exactly in which way do you mean that fingers are similar to pegs? If it's because our fingers are individual, we don't have webbed fingers that connect them. Rather, each one is individual. Of course, each finger is unique. You don't have to ask me a kasha, why are the fingers doimit yisebis? I'll tell you why. Each finger has a special mitzvah that's associated with it. Damamar zu zeres. The pinky is the zeres, which is used to measure the choshen, I think, right? We measure the each side of the choshen. Zu kemitza. Then the ring finger we use as the kmitza because it's the ring finger, the central finger, and the pointer. It's those 3 fingers that we make the kmitza with. Zu'ama, the middle finger, is not used for what you think it's used for. It's used to measure an amma. Zu etzba, there's the finger which you point with. That's Rashi says is used lematan damim shel chatos, and zeh goydel. Then there's the thumb, which Rashi says is used for the behinus, where they put dam on. Tosha says, then why did it use the word goydel? It should have used the word boyan. So Tosha says the goydel is also used as part of the kmitza, because when they took the handful of kmitza, they rubbed off the top with the thumb, and that's why it's called goydel, and they rubbed off the bottom with their pinky, so that it should just be the kmitza for the 3 central fingers. Ella, the question is not why we have 5 fingers. The question is matam is shupos, why are they tapered like pegs? So that you can put your finger in your ear and it'll seal your ear. You see, it's not made because we need to pick our nose. You would have thought that's why we have fingers that are tapered. The Gemara says it's not because of that. It's to block our ears from hearing things that they're not allowed to hear. Tana Devei, Rabbi Shmuel. I feel so much more validated now. Thank you. Tana Devei Rabbi Shmuel. Mitnei oizen kulei kasha va'al yeraka. Why is it that all the cartilage of the ear is relatively rigid, but the part at the bottom, the soft part at the bottom is soft? Zok the Gemara shemish ma'adam davar she'ina hagun. Because if someone hears something that's inappropriate, Yaakov al Yosai can fold over that soft and block his ear with it. So the question is, why does it need 2 methods? Why do you need both the fingers as well as the soft ear? So the Mepharshim tell us that all the other openings in our body have natural ways to close it. Our eyes naturally close when necessary. We have eyelids. Our mouth naturally closes. Our ears are wide open. They're unprotected. And they can easily be impacted by hearing something that's inappropriate. So you actually need 2 defenses against them because they don't have an automatic instinctive built-in door. So therefore we have 2 to protect ourselves. Tanu Rabbanon, al yashmiya adam la'aznav dvarim b'teilim. Not only should someone not allow himself to hear dvarim asurim, but even dvarim b'teilim, he shouldn't allow himself to hear. You know why? The first part of a body that gets burnt in Gashmias would be the ears. Figuratively, we say zelu umazeh. That's where the first impact on the neshamas will occur when we're exposed to something that's inappropriate. If you look at Rashi nichvas tchila levarim, rakos v'dakos, they're thin, lichavos nukulim, to get burnt faster than all the other ivarim. We were talking about a guy who singes an animal to get rid of the hairs because we don't like having hair on our chicken. We like having clean chicken. So they used to singe off the feathers. The question is there a problem of bishalakim? You're still allowed to eat it. Even the ear, which we know gets cooked very quickly, even that part you're allowed to eat. So you see from there that the ear gets burnt quickly. It's interesting that another thing that we're impacted is everything a person looks at goes into his neshama and it impacts him. That's why we have to be so careful with our eyes. So I'm not sure if anyone's aware, the only place on the entire body where a doctor, you can actually see your blood vessels is in your eyes. That's why when someone is a diabetic, their eyes are checked very carefully, because everywhere else they could only know the condition of one's blood vessels by symptoms. But in their eye, they actually could see blood vessels. And that's why the eye is so susceptible. The Chaman if someone gets hit with an infectious disease in his eyes, there's very little protection against it. That's when one must wear eye protection. A friend of mine told me that he has a cousin who is an anesthesiologist in New York, and he was not wearing eye protection, and he was setting up an IV, and some of the patient's blood sprayed in his eye, and from that little drop, he got AIDS. At least that's what he said. From that little, it was an AIDS patient. It was an AIDS patient because the eye is so susceptible, and the ears of the Gemara, it seems, is even more susceptible. So that's how careful we have to be with what enters our ears and our eyes. I never thought to ask my friend that. Is one allowed to make the first bia on Shabbos? Because Rashi says, how could we ask us a shayla? Didn't we discuss a brisa just a minute ago, earlier today, that says you're not allowed to make the bia on Shabbos? So how is the Gemara clearing about it now? So Zok Rashi, either this Gemara didn't hear about that brisa, the Amoraim knew all the Mishnais, but they didn't necessarily know all the brises. Inami shmielu umiboyelu halacha ein halacha. We want to know, do we follow the halacha? So what is the shayla? Dam mifkid pocket. Is the dam merely inside the body, like water in a bottle, not absorbed into it? Rashi's mifkid pocket, kemoy pikadin, kanus, v'oimed. I want you to know, you think I'm just reading the Rashis. I am controlling myself so hard not to imitate a rebellion, how he read this Gemara. By Mapas Mursa, I'm not going to be able to control myself. But by Mifkid Pocket, I'm still controlling myself. I was reviewing Rebel Yishurim yesterday just to see a little bit what he said on this Gemara. But so it's the way he pronounced Mifkid Pocket was very unique. So is that Mifkid Pocket, the Rashi says, like a Pekadoi, Konus Vaimed, it's like in a jar. It's not considered absorbed into the walls of the rechem. So that when, in order to get the blood out, it's considered a chabura, which would be considered an Israel Shabbos. It's like a bottle cap is on it, and by doing the biyah, it's like opening up the bottle cap, and it opens up. Is that what it is, or is it chibur michber, which Rashi says dam besulam hayoyt chabura hu ba ayidei chabura ba? It only comes out through a chabura. The wall breaks apart from its chabur. So once again, we have to ask: there's no such thing as a machlek as a mitzvah. They knew the mitzvahs. The shiloh is, since it's the derech for dam to come out, it's not like a wound. It's normal in the life of a woman for a dam to come out. It's supposed to come out. Therefore, halachically, do we consider it like it's a chabura, or since the dam is supposed to come out, halachically, do we consider it just like it's in a jar, and therefore there wouldn't be an Isser Shabbos. So Toshus discusses what would be the problem. Is it al dosh? Is it al tzmefarik? Is it al seveya? There's a whole bunch of different shilas what the Isser is. But if it's mifkid pocket, everybody holds you're allowed to open up a jar and pour out its contents on Shabbos. So then it wouldn't be an Isser. So Zok Gemara, dam mifkid pocket. Even if your dam is mifkid pocket, well then the question is, ledam hu tzarich, is the purpose of the biyah because he needs the dam basulam, for instance, because he wants to know that she's a basula, v'shari, and therefore it'd be mutter because there's no isur in tzos dam. Maybe in the first biyah, what he's trying to do is open up a door for biyah, and now there's a new problem. Well, usher will be usher. Rashi says, what's the new problem? He's doing renovations on his collar, and that will be usher. And if you want to say l'damutar, and he's not trying to make a Pesach, he's just trying to release the dam, even if you hold like that. But l'maisas of Rashi, you are creating a Pesach. So then the question is, we know there's a halacha, there's a machlokes of davar she'enim mischaven is also a mutter. Reb Shimon holds davar she'enim mischaven is mutter. Reb Yehuda holds davar she'enim mischaven is also. So the question is, you're making a Pesach, but it's a davar she'enim mischaven. So is the halacha like Reb Shimon, davar she'enim mischaven mutter, or oy halacha Reb Yehuda, the amar davar she'enim mischaven also. Zok to Gemara. Let's see Rashi. Halacha Reb Yehuda davar she'enim mischaven also. Oy Reb Shimon the mutter. If automatically by making the biyah it creates a Pesach, even if it's a davar she'enim mischaven, even if that's not its intent, it's psikresha. If you cut off the head of a chicken, it's impossible that it won't die. So it's lashon tmiyah. Psikresha v'layamas. Can you cut off someone's head and he won't die? Actually, the Gemara is actually referring to they used to use the head of chickens as balls to play with, like a tennis ball. So you're going to cut off. So if you, let's say you want to cut off a chicken's head to give your child to play with as a ball, could you possibly do that without killing the chicken? This is actually a question that the Gemara asks later. So sometimes Rashi says, wait till later. Here Rashi says, I know you won't be able to withstand the suspense of this kasha of Psikresha V'Layomos. So therefore, Rashi, I'm going to share the teretz with you. There are people where as soon as each right people are able to be boiled in such a way where it will not break the basulim. Vein dam yoytze, it wouldn't cause dam to come out. Ba'af ein pesach niftach, and it wouldn't even open the pesach. It's possible to be boiled in such a way. Please don't ask me for details. I don't have them. Hilchach lav psikresha v'loyomasu. It's not psikresha v'loyomas. So that was the shaila. It's not a psikresha. It's only a davar shenim machavin. So do we pass on like Reb Shimon and it's mutter, or do we pass on like Reb Yehuda and it's aser? And even if you hold like Reb Yehuda that it's going to be aser, that he's building a Pesach, he's opening up this woman, is that called mekalkal? Mekalkal hu etzel Pesach, and Reb Shimon holds that mekalkal b'chabura is potter, or mesaken hu etzel Pesach, or is it a tikkun? Let's see Rashi. Why would it be a tikkun? Why would it be kilkul? In Tim Shalom Malach Reb Yehuda, Akati ikalim boy the kaimelon ki amar Reb Yehuda. Where did Reb Yehuda say that davar shenim eschaven is aser b'mesaken? If what you're doing shaloi b'kavana is improving something, avu b'makalkal, if you're breaking something down, even Reb Yehuda agrees that ein machaven it wouldn't be a problem. Ein malacha. Therefore, v'yesh lishal al Pesach zeh, this Pesach that he's making with the first bia in tikenu etla, is it good because he's now making it easier to do bia on this woman? Or kilkulu etzla, or is it a kilkul shabasula chashuva min abaula? He's downgrading this woman from the status of a basula to the status of a bahula. Ikadamri, there's another way to look at the shaila. So up until now, we were analyzing the question on the tzad that dam mifkut patur. Well, what if it's dam chibur michbar, meaning it's a chabura? So then the question is, Ledam utzarech, is it a davar hamachaven ledam? He wants the dam to come out, either to check for basulim or so that they shouldn't be known. So in the next beer there shouldn't be lichluch. So and therefore it's a malach, it's aser, the aser. Ideal malanos asma utzarech. When he's doing bia, he's just focusing on having a no, and the dam coming out is a davar shein mechaven b'shari, and it'll be mutter. In timtzaloi malanos asma utzarech, the dam melech asi. So then we're weiter told in the machlokas of davar shein mechaven. It's a lach like a Yehuda that it'll be usher anyway, because even though your kavanah is not for the dam, but shaloi b'chavanah the dam is coming out. Or a lach like Reb Shimon, or the lach like Reb Shimon that by a davar shein mechaven it's going to be mutter. And even if you hold that the lach like Reb Yehuda that a davar shein mechaven is usher, maybe this is mekalkal b'chabura, and even Reb Yehuda would be mighty that it's mutter, or misaken b'chabura, or is it misaken b'chabura? And therefore, according to Reb Yehuda, al davar shein mechaven, it should be usher. If you hold that it is called mekalkal b'chabura, so then the question is, the mekalkal as the halacha like Reb Yehuda that is it's not usher, that kilkal is not usher. Ideal halacha Reb Shimon, or maybe halacha is like Reb Shimon and mekalkal b'chabura is going to be usher. Or halacha Reb Shimon, the mekalkal b'chabura chayiv. Even the timsalem halacha Reb Yehuda b'davar shein mechaven the usher. So the problem with this is it's tied to the sashri. It's only usher al davar shein mechaven if you rely on your Yehuda. Well, the davar shein mechaven is usher, but it's only usher if it's kilko. If you hold like Reb Shimon, that mekalkal b'chabur is chayiv. But neither individual Tana holds that it would be usher. So what's the Gemara saying? Maybe at the lach like Reb Shimon. If the lach like Reb Shimon that mekalkal b'chabur is chayiv, then you hold davar shein mechaven is mutter. So what's the tzad? So the first saying maybe there's a third Tana who holds of the chumrah of Reb Yehuda and of the chumrah of Reb Shimon, and he holds that sai davar shein mechaven is usher and sai mekalkal b'chabura is chayiv. Okay, we'll stop here. And I mentioned we will be mamshach tomorrow. But you can see we're literally running all over Shas. We're going from Hilchos Hashmora to Hilchos Shabbos to Hatoya. We're literally all over the place because Mama's a Shas Chatan. So it's a Shas HaKosher. It's a learn in Shas Chut. It's going to have a very, very safe trip. A big aflocha. Are you in a rush right now? You have it's like 60 seconds. Okay, so one second, I want to show you something.